Hi everyone, it's Setup Shop again for the HPD. So this week, week 3, and we are around Spa-Francorchamps, GP pits, afternoon. So we're going to be looking at some crazy temperatures through the week, no doubt. Now, in keeping with what we've been doing in the past, we're doing afternoon default weather. One thing I would recommend, which I'm not going to do in this race or this session, is to maybe pump up the track temp to say 44 and make your own adjustments from there. The reason why I'm not going to do that is because we've been running and we're going to continue to run in iRacing default through the series. So as ever, so Spa GP pits afternoon. We're going to adjust track state 20%. We'll keep this going through the series, and we're just going to hit use iRacing default, and we're going to hit go. So I've already gone out and I've already done the iRacing default times, which we will show in a few moments. But on the top speed of things, there is a 16 in the default setups. In any case, there is a 16-kilometer down the straight difference, and the differences that I'm getting in time between the two sets, and I would say the driving that I put in to get the times, I would say I've put about as much effort into each. So there is a second difference between medium and low, with low being the quicker, and also being obviously the top speed as well. So I did promise last week some new fancy graphics. Not quite as exciting as I think you're gonna be, but what we'll do is just make the first of a few adjustments. Now, the good thing about this week, we're on week 3. We've had a low and we've had a medium setups, so that means that we can just go ahead and pull in the low downforce that we've used from last week, which is around Road America. Hopefully you saw the revision 3 that I put into the forum, and you hopefully saw that and used that. So we're not going to use the first setup from last week's video. We're going to use the adjustments that are made. So we'll go ahead and load that. So we're going to say no to the default iRacing. We're going to load up Road America RV3. Still showing us 45. We need to make sure that's the case. We're going to now, through going through the little bit of a test session before this to get the timings, is that it seemed that the tyres seemed to be okay, balanced left to right around here, so we don't need to have any offsets, and we'll just make sure that keeps us legal in the ride height department, and we want to be left to right, same spring perch offset, which is good. What we'll do, let's give that, let's adjust its title before we forget and make mistakes. Within your titles, you can put things, other titles in there. You may want to put afternoon, well, whatever the specific time of day is for the circuit. So that may be something that you might want to do. So without any further delay, we'll show the amazing new graphic. As you can see there in the top left hand corner, what we've got is the very top line is me just cropping JRT, and the green text this week is correct. I've just checked it, and as you can see, that's the times that we've managed to achieve in the iRacing default with 45 kilograms of fuel. Always make sure that if you want to try and mimic what I've been doing here is iRacing default weather in the way that we've just come into the session now, load the default from iRacing setup and then make sure that you put 45 kilos in. That also normally means that you want to adjust the spring perch by 1 click to bring the car back down again. That normally gets you back to where you start on the ride height. So if you want to go out and see what your time is against that iRacing default, and you've got the time to do it, then go ahead and do that. But what we'll do, as ever, we'll just now we've got the keeping the low downforce from last week. We've got the tyres on as low as they'll go, and we'll see how this compares. Because I know when I was driving around in the low for default, that the gears, there's a lot of sort of short gears between second and third was so close together. It was just wasn't funny. So we'll see what we get. So 206, as we can see, the top left. That is our target for today. And can we get underneath it? And if we can, how consistent are we? And how many laps does it take for us to get there? So, interesting. So yeah, so we're just getting used to the car around here. It does feel quite different from the default. Loads are quite different through the higher speed corners. Back end is lively. So we'll just let the tyres pressure up a little bit, and then we'll be able to make a better decision about what we've got underneath us. Oh. Okay then, so for me the front's a bit too reactive. We'll go out and we'll take it a bit easier going through the higher speeds. See if we can get through without killing ourselves. And of course, as we're driving around, we just want to make sure that we've got enough gear on the top, because we've got to not just think about ourselves running around. We've got to think about if we've got enough gear on the top end to cruise up behind somebody. So don't forget, when you jump into the car for the first time this week, don't try and bring what you think is cooler temperature brake spots. You want to start to walk your brake markers forward. You don't want to try and drive the car like you only go 2 seconds quicker than everybody else. You want to try and move your braking points forward, not have to start moving them backwards. So. Right, can we make it through without dying? I am going to lift. Definitely going to lift. I really don't like that traction control sound. It sounds like the just doesn't sound nice. At least you definitely know it's working. Right, so as I was mentioning last week, going through the kink, you know, we got much warmer weather this week. So we just want to make sure that we steer the car as little as possible. Still obviously be able to make the corner. One thing we didn't look at is the temperature, but we can see there, the bottom right, 37 degrees. So yeah, so I use caps as well as JRT. Caps is great as long as you're running windowed mode, or else you don't get the overlays. JRT is great if you've got a second monitor or another device. Yeah, the car feels better now, it's pressuring up tyres. I'm getting used to it. I've literally just stepped out of doing the default low downforce, so maybe I'm a bit too reactive with the inputs compared to what I had to do to get the default car around possibly, so... Can we get around? Yeah, I think the front of the car is a bit too reactive, so... Oh, can at least be a stunt driver in my next life. So we'll see if we can get a clean... First time we get a clean lap, then we'll pull over and make some adjustments, but I just want to get a time in. I can't remember if last week we had the controls visible, so you can see it just underneath the rev counter on the dash, so you can at least see what my inputs are for this week. I always like to hang out 5th gear along here. You'll need to change up more gears than you need to, unless you need to. Yeah, so don't forget, we're currently driving a car that was set up for late afternoon. I'd say a similar kind of circuit. You know, some high flowing corners. Jeez. Weather followed by driver error. Excellent. Right, excellent. We're half a second away from the iRacing time, even though we're still trying to enter stunt school. Come on, this is going to be a lap where we actually get to the end without trying to commit suicide. Right. Not braking early enough for that corner. I think I've said this for a good 3 years. It'd be great if somebody could make an app where they just... because we've got so many apps that you can use within iRacing, but it actually speaks to you in your ear what the corner name is as you're going through the corner or approaching the corner, and then we can all get educated about what the name of the corners are. We're going to go through Blanchimont. Yeah, I'm sure it's Blanchimont flap, so minimal inputs at this point. still wants to do bad things. Okay, there we go, 2058, first plane, proper sort of time lap. Still some issues in there, so you can see we've got plenty of time to chew out. So the key thing is stability, so let's bring up the garage and see. Let's actually change that view because that can get to be quite noisy. Right, we're definitely going to leave one wing on, absolutely not going to change that, and we can see here last top pressures, and we can see that they're building up side to side quite nicely. I always leave the rears as low as they can go. By all means, experiment with raising the rears one click if you wanted to, just to bring them in balance with front to rear also. Right. Let's have a look at the front of the car. So the rear of the car, we definitely want all the grip we can get, so it's likely we're not going to use any AOB at the rear, because that stiffens the rear up and we want that to be as supple as possible to keep the grip. So don't forget, we're in 37 degrees C at the minute, and it's highly likely that we're going to be in the 40 and above temps. Right, I am going to... So we can see we've got some, I'm going to bring up the front 2 clicks. In fact, we'll do 2 clicks all around. The reason why the 10s are on, the rebounds are on 10 is because that's the opposite of 1 on the compression. So don't forget, so on the compression side, 1 is the quickest, 6 takes longer to get there, to load up to transition the weight to then start to load up the spring. 10 on the rebound is as quick as it will go. So if we want to calm, say, the back of the car down a little bit, then we can go ahead and reduce that number from 10 downwards. Oh, what I feel is that it's probably a little bit too reactive on the front. What I'm also going to do is just bring, I know that iRacing default is 70 ballast, so we'll go with 70. We also running low brake pressure, which I think is going to be the right choice. We'll leave the brake pressure brake bias where it is at the moment. I'm not getting any braking issues at this point, and I'm going to disengage the third spring. In fact, no, what we'll do, we'll leave the third spring just where it is. So we'll just go with the ballast change and the damper change. I'm not going for a spring change. The rear springs are always going to stay on 150, as we've talked about in the past. There's only a few exceptions where that would be the case. So we just need to make sure that that the front is going to come down a little bit. So, direction I would go with, if I'm going to change the spring, I think would be to go a little bit harder. If I was going to change it, but we'll just see. So we've got a ballast change, and we've also got a damper change. Didn't hit anything, so alright. So we haven't done the floor any good. one thing to bear in mind when you have trips like that, you've got to iRacing doesn't like you to superheat the tyre surface, so just be careful. Also in the load downforce, remember default being the optimals are 205.5. Can we do this first lap? Oh yeah, there we go. So yeah, so we're improving in most areas. Braking was a little bit better there as well. We're currently on traction control 5. I think we'll see how this feels before we start turning that up. But you can see even in warmer climes, the warmer temperatures, and with low downforce, we can go through Eau Rouge without trouble. We can do that flat. Quite funny how the gears are actually fitting just as how I would like between the obvious corners that I would possibly tune to around here. Live, 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 live. That seems a lot more settled. Okay, we've got getting more time with better control. Right, so we are getting some braking issue going into the bus stop. So what we can do in car, 2 clicks forward is that 0.5% to brings up to 59. So I'm going to move the brake bias forward. If I go, there we go. You can see it in the little black box on the lower left of my screen. Can you see that? Yes, you can. I've just gone 2 clicks forward, so that's going to simulate going to 59 brake pressure. So we're going to give the front of the car more braking force. Minimal steering angle as you can get through there. Keep the momentum, keep the scrubbing down to a minimum. Going to help you for 2 reasons. Obviously the speed element is key, but tyre wear, don't kill me. No, that's getting better. That's a lot better than what it was. That's flat, absolutely flat, no trouble now. getting better. So what we'll do on the camel straight, we'll crank the old traction control up to 8. So we can see it says T15 on the dash at the moment. So I'm going to press some buttons. T18. So we're on full traction control. On the curb a little bit there. Just a little bit too much, should upset the car then. There's a knack if you can get it to come in just right, and then you can get on the gas nice and early, so just trying to get tuned into that knack for this circuit. And as we can see on the dash, pressures and temp are coming up nicely and even as well. A little bit better that time coming around there. So you can see that time that we lost on turn 1, we've nearly made it back. So we would have been up at this point. So be a little bit more calm through there this time. There we go. Right. Yeah, the back of the car still feels too lively for me. So let's see if we can carry this time through to the end or improve it. Still plenty of time to make up in that final braking sector and going through the bus stop. So slow turning penalty there. Okay, good, good, good. Okay, 205 in a legal sense. So we can see on the top left of the screen the best of a 205.4. So we're a tenth away from that, and that was legal. So what do we need? So we're definitely going to have that brake balanced forward. So we're going to definitely have that on 59. Apply that. And I just want to look to the back of the car a little bit. So we're right on the floor with the ride heights. Really tempted to have a play with that. Now, what can be giving us a little bit of trying to give us grip on the back as well as the front is the third spring. So if you remember last week, third spring, what that does, an ARB is a left to right stiffness on the axle. Third spring is all about trying to keep the car or the chassis as still as possible. So the amount where this third spring gap is the amount that it will is allowed to move before the third spring interferes and tries to stabilize. So what I'm going to do, just as an experiment, we'll turn that off and then we'll go out and see, because it's quite close, because the third spring is on 50. It can go all the way up to about 150, 160. So we've got quite a bit of it. It doesn't take too long before it engages. It is good for high speed tracks, which of course this is. So when we turn it off from having it quite a bit, what we're really looking for is to see, does it take anything away, or does it actually give us some stability, which would then bring us to some performance, hopefully. So what I'm looking for is, does it calm the back of the car down? Because we can always turn it back on again and open the third spring right out, and then it's just a case of bringing it down until you find an interaction point. Oops. Always try and feed it on through there as early as you can. Now the back of the on the first lap, or you always want the car to get warmed up a little bit, but equally I can feel that. Let's just see. The back of the car feels like it's following as opposed to getting too excited. So at this point I would say that's a positive change that I can feel so far. So let's see. What that gives us. Too much of the could have been too much there. Now I feel like I don't quite have enough through the twisties of the rear. So what we can certainly do is look at re-engaging the third spring, and then what we'll do, we'll take it out to say 100, because we know what 50 gives us, so we'll double the gap before it engages. I sort of treat that last corner, or the two corners, as almost like the kink at Road America, where you set the steering angle as the minimal as possible and don't change it. Almost like that there. You want to set your mark up and then roll with it, because you don't want to upset the car. That's me talking and braking at the same time. Is never a good idea. So gear set wise, so on the change that I made for Road America, we started the week with the shortest gear set, and now we're on the next one up. So we're on the second out of 4 gear sets. It may be an idea for us to also look at going to the next one up. Possibly. Too wide there. But I like everything from third up. I think first and second. Second feels like it could be doing a little bit, just to be a fraction shorter. And first feels like it could do to be longer, and I know it can't go longer. So just see what first is again here. Grass, grass. That's me thinking about the gears. Right, anyway, so what we'll do, we'll just play with the third spring. We shall bring that on again. Yes, so my helmet shows as being the correct helmet there. Now when I saw it on a picture earlier today from Mr. Darren Seal, it was green, it was my old helmet, but that's the Jensen Button helmet. And that's normally the Jensen Button numbers that I run with in a session, so right, third spring. And let's bring it out. So what we're doing here, we're extending the amount of millimeters that it's going to take for the third spring to engage. So we're going to double. We can, of course, reduce the front ALB as well. But it doesn't feel too bad. It doesn't feel too bad. I may soften it, but I don't want to take too much dynamic away from the lower speed turns where we need the car to react. What you'll also find is that when you tune into a good setup, whether it's medium or whether it's low, I don't think you'll find that you'll need to change too much about it for coming circuits. So with this being back-to-back low downforces from Road America to here, there's just a handful of things that we need to change. I don't really want to make sweeping changes, it's just about honing what we have to suit Spa. So we've not changed the top gear, we may change the lowest gears, but they may all stay as they are. At least second gear isn't spinning up the back of the car through that right-hander that we came through there. I think it's called Paul Freyer, I think. And we can go through there absolutely full chat, no trouble at all now. And if we look down the lower right, we've taken quite a chunk out of the optimal as well. 2049, good, okay. So as you can see on that last turn, I do use the gear to help turn the car when I feel like I've not got it right. Every time I go for the third gear through there, it always pushes it too wide. If you go wide and you get the off track, just own it and make the most out of it when you get it. At least maximise your penalty point. Without cheating, of course. Okay, I really need to start bringing up a brake marker there, that's getting stupid now. Right, so how does it feel with 100%, with that 100mm gap on it now? I don't feel like we've lost any performance in it. And what we're trying to do is just try and get the front to rear stability of the car balanced, and it feels like we're definitely going in the right direction. So. Now, what is unusual for my driving is that we are a second off the optimal. Normally I'm 2, maybe 3 tenths off, so... I think a good chunk of that is at the bus stop in the braking, so we'll try and focus on that and get some better braking. Oops. Now don't forget, low downforce, warm track. Even last week, it's not about who can brake the latest. It's about carrying the speed. If you can do both, then that's great. Good for you. But we need to keep a flow going. I don't think I've got the braking skill, so you got to use your skills where it better suits. So I try and keep a higher average, but whether I'm achieving that, I honestly couldn't tell you. But it seems to be doing okay. Okay, a little bit quicker. Tyres are staying even as well, that's good. Okay, stayed legal that time. Last lap and then we'll go back into the pits. So we'll have a look at the diff as well. See if we can help coming out of that final bus stop. Stop it there. Right, okay, so top speed as well. Okay, I thought we might have gotten a little bit fraction quicker. I thought we might have got to 287 by now, but on the top speed, but let's have a look. What I'm going to do is going to go straight to the diff. So I'm going to drop the clutch plate down. So clutch plate is all about the locking force that's sent to the back of the car. I'm going to leave it on 80 as a preload. I'm quite happy with that. It feels fine at the back, and we're on the lowest accel. So as it mentions on the description down below, it says the higher the number, the more locking force that goes to the back of the car, and we don't want any of that. We want to sort of reduce that a little bit at this stage. So, and we've also got the lowest decel, so that means that it's not going to cause us to understeer too much off throttle. That might be something we maybe have a look at later, but it doesn't feel too bad like that. As you can see down the bottom, we're on 8 on the traction control, and these are the gears that we're running at the moment. So 141 on the first gear, and as we can see here, if we go drop that down, we're on the maximum there. What do we do if we go down to that? Yeah, we'll try that. We'll just try that one change. Right. We'll just get the back down again, because that's crept up. Anything else? I'm just going to take one click out of the rear. Calm that down a little. Don't know why they're offset. I'm going to do the same on the front. So when we're calming or slowing down, when the weight is releasing, the speed of the weight releasing out of the spring, what we're doing is on the front we're leaving the nose in a little bit longer for it to give us more steering before it throws it to the back of the car or to the side, whichever motion that we're going through. And on the back of the car, it will just help us feel like it's not quite as dynamic at the back of the car. So not many changes there. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. Ballast can often help with that also. So the ballast currently is forward in the car as opposed to the direction it can go. So it can be 300 forward, 300 rear. So if you still have problems with the back of the car and you're not on the brakes, then you could have a look at the ballast and moving that further forward. So we put the back side of the car on the floor, and so the next step would be to maybe put 2 clicks into the front on the front ride height, or you could, if you don't want to do that for aerodynamics, you could put a +1 on the toe. So just give that one a run out. Don't like putting +1 on the rear of the car, which means that it would need more persuasion on, as in +1 toe. I don't want to try and persuade it more to go around the corner. I just want it to follow me around the corner. Surprising how that 5 km difference on the second gear can just give it a little bit more punch coming through that last right-hander there. So. So what I often do, if I'm looking to change the gear set, is that I'll take a photograph of the gears set as it is. So I have a reference back to. So what I'll do, I'll go whichever direction I'm going to change the gear set in, I'll then make the change and then try and get the gears back to where we started. Go out and give it a drive, because don't forget, when you change the gear set, you've got different driving cogs in the gearbox, so you may not necessarily need to change. You won't get them perfect as if they were the previous gear set. There'll always be a kilometre here and there difference when they get different individual gears, but what you may find is that might give you the feel that you're looking for before you make any changes. So now what I've got in my head is that I quite like just to see what bringing third down a click would do. Because if you watch second to third, third drops a little bit too low in the rev range for my liking. I like the gears to, where possible, in the lower range. Hold on. I like the gears to start, like then first to second, to start at their very first red if I can. That's my preference. So you can see it drops down into the green, so I like gears to sound, to me, if gears sound right in my head, then generally they tend to be that way. Don't know why. But yeah, second to third would be nice if we can bring it down that one click. Now, I don't want to bring fourth down because seems to be a nice. This through here seems to be a nice gear for it. Also, the start finish seems to be quite nice for fourth gear as well. Own it. So what we seem to do here then, as we've found in the last weeks, is that we've got the target times from the defaults. We come in, we make some basic changes. And then we can seem to hit approximately that time each time. Well, let's have a little bit of a play. Treat this as an in-lap. Let's turn the traction control all the way off. Right, one is as low as it'll go. Let's see what happens. Don't think this is going to be pretty. It's so funny if we go quicker. Well, it's not killed us yet. Interesting to see what it sounds like coming out of the bus stop. If we get out of the bus stop. Okay, just see what it comes out. Sounds like coming out the first time. It doesn't feel like it makes any blind bit of difference. So let's leave that on one for the time being. Let's see if how long it takes for it to kill us, if at all. Right, okay. Let's have a look at that third gear. Now the thing is, I'm automatically now thinking, if that second gear through, I have to go through to pull on the double left-hander. When we've been through that, we're turning right and left. That well, second's a bit short there, but we could, if we do manage to shorten up third, then we could probably use third. But how much does it shorten us up? It's quite a bit. Okay. See, I'm still really quite happy with the turn. I don't really feel like there's going to be too much more we do, really. I think if anything, it might be possibly experimenting with it gear change. Now, what I'm going to do, maybe a little bit of caster, maybe, but we'll just see, quickly see. What we get out of the second and third gear. And does third to fourth suffer a lot. So we don't want to shorten up fourth. Because don't forget, it's not just about building a set for the first 3 to 5 laps. The car will get quicker as we get through the stint. So we need to bear in mind that the gearing can change a little bit because the car is lighter. Should we have a shorter fourth gear? It's my fault. I don't mind it flashing a little bit like that, that's okay. Equally, we're in 37 degrees C, we're not in 44 C. So everything that we're doing here may be scuppered in the 44, or whatever challenges we're going to get. Certainly feels a little bit more dynamic. So, experiment number 2. Let's get this to the end of the lap. Let's see if we do improve. And we'll just try a shorter fourth. Okay, I've got a feeling we should be using third through some of those now. So these are the kind of things that you should always try. Just make sure whether you've got the gears, because there's plenty to be found in there. So what do we get? So we're on 244. What does that drop us to if we... Not much. So what's the next one? That's way too much. Right, so we'll go to the 241. Right. So we're good with tyres. And let's try third through here. Yeah, I have no trouble letting third flash out in that section, because it could throw your sort of rhythm out a little bit if you start flipping up to fourth and then coming back down again in such a short period of time. Whoa. Hit the inside curve there, that's not a good idea. Yep, we still have enough gear. Down the start-finish straight to get into the first turn. Interesting. Okay. So as early as we can on that slower right-hander, that gives us all the speed down this straight. So we want to get on that, try and get into a technique where you can get on that nice and early. Oh, wrong gear. That would have been faster slap, no man. Oh well. Well, we can see what's going on there. We've got... seem to be getting plenty of green at this point. And it doesn't feel like we're overly trying too hard, and it still feels like I'm not getting certain corners right, like this sequence here. I'm definitely not getting this right yet. Let's try third again. Must admit, second felt pretty good last time. Yeah, definitely needs third through there now. Driver error there. Okay, first gear this time. Now, what I generally tend to do, when I'm doing my runs, when in normal setup land, I normally stop at 10 kilos. Of course, unless I'm doing a full tank run. So I want to keep some of the weight in the car. So I don't want to do laps and then take weight out of the car. Yeah, setting off that corner too late there. That's what happens if you take second gear too early. So, as you can see there, that's a little bit of a con, so if you don't get your timings right, then the short gear will bite you. Bit too eager there. Right, okay, we're at about an hour and 10 minutes. I really don't want these to keep going into lengthy videos. I was hoping this was going to be 45 minutes, but whatever. Right, so we'll make a save there. So I would certainly say play around with the gears that we've been doing there. So we've shortened second, third and fourth. You may want to keep them that one click longer that we've done. I feel like going up a little bit higher. I'm going to go 80 on the CRB. Now this is going to be the last change I'm going to make. If this is not good, we'll go down to 60. But as you can see, I think we're on about same par as the previous weeks. We are able to repeatedly tap in times that are quicker than the iRacing default and maintain them, but we're still, for me, too far away from my optimal. Okay, well that felt a nice change straight away, but does it harm us in the high speed? About to find out. Computer says no. Felt pretty good. Should have left it in second longer. So if you ever hear anybody talk about flat car, it's all about trying to get the 4 tyres in a straight line with equal grip for either traction or for braking. I always try and brake as straight as I can for as long as I can before I have to make a direction change. Still not setting up early enough for that turn. This does feel better. The front ARB being a little bit stiffer is better. Now the tyres warming up, that definitely feels better going in there. Interesting. Interesting. 2 tenths up. See how much of that we can throw away going into the bus stop. Okay. So yeah, so that front ARB change could have an impact quite a bit, so on your time. So that felt pretty good. I'm going to leave it there for this week. If I'm going to continue to tune in my own time during the week, especially when we get into the warmer temperatures of the sessions. So what I'm going to do is post up like I did with last week. Pop it back into the forum, and if I make any changes, but don't forget, do go ahead and take the setup. Let's go ahead and save it. Let's just make sure we save that. Take the setup. Don't forget the key things we've been talking about is that you may want to reduce the third spring or even turn it off completely. This is about your setup for you. So third spring, have a play around with the gap. So the gap is how much room is there before, or a distance is there before the third spring kicks in and tries to correct the car or stiffen the car. We played around with the damping. I think that's definitely helped, especially with high speeds. And then the other item, the main item here is gear sets. So don't forget we've shortened second, third, and fourth. So don't forget, if you want to make a final drive change, take a photograph of what you got, and then before you go into the next longest, and if I apply that, we can see first gear goes straight up to a 150. So and you can see how everything else extends out. So what you would then do is then look at make an adjustment and then try and get it back to, like I mentioned, try and get it back to where it is. The final drive gear, with it being bigger, you may find that it may, without having to extend the gears or shorten the gears, it may give you what you want in the feel. So always try that first. Okay then, guys. Any comments, anything at all, leave them in the forum or on the YouTube channel. If there's anything else that you want me to possibly do other than just straightforward setup, also let me know. There is something I'm trying to work on regarding like a head-to-head. So if I can get that sorted, hopefully I can do that today. Then I'll pop that up on the YouTube channel and let you know about that in the forums. Okay then, guys. Until next week, I shall see you on track.